back to my channel. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you consider subscribing. I like to release videos pretty much every Friday, and I've been pretty consistent with that, but just in case, make sure to hit that bell icon. So today what we're going to be doing is setting up the backend to add user authentication to an application. We're going to be using Node, Express, bcrypt, which is a way to encrypt passwords in a database. We're going to be using, we're also going to be introducing JSON web token for uh, uh, authentication with a code, and we'll get into that. We're not really going to be doing any front end, but I may do another video where I highlight the front end using this back end. And if that's something you'd like to see, let me know in the comments below. And also, if you find this video helpful in any way, even if you pick up a small detail that maybe you didn't know before, then by all means, like this video. And if you have any follow-up questions, please leave a comment below, and I usually get back to you within 24 hours. All right, with all that out of the way, so basically we are going to set up a backend, like I said, using Node, JS, and Express, and a few other things. I have here Postman, which you can get. I think it's Postman. Yeah, Postman. I think it's this one, postman.com. Yeah, and I think you got to sign up now, and then you download it. It's totally free, and you download it, and then it runs on your computer, on your machine, and it just allows you to test routes, right? Like for example, if we went over to the ever popular JSON placeholder and got this, and then we got our posts, and we got this API or endpoint, we could put that in there, and we would get all those things. It's just a way of testing things out. Okay, we're not going to do that. So, but what we are going to be doing is localhost 5000. Now this is on localhost of the API that we set up, or that we're going to set up. User/register, that route. In our body, I'm going to select raw and then select JSON, and then I'm going to type valid JSON, which is 2 curly braces, parentheses around everything. Name. This is a register for a login for user authentication. Name, say Ted Smith again. Come down, email. This can be anything. It could be ted@gmail.com. It doesn't matter. And then we're going to do password. Whoops. In double parentheses, not single. Password. And I'll just say test123. Obviously, we password, but it doesn't matter. It works for our purposes. Excuse me. Okay, so we're going to send, and it gave us an error. Why did it do that? Did that right, didn't I? Jeez. Can't even get it right the first time. Oh, I'm sorry. This should be a post route. And here we are. Here's what we're going to get. Status of 200, which means everything went okay. Here's our token. Here's our JWT token, which is assigned a new one every time a person logs in and logs out or registers, and then it stores it in our database. Here's our user of what we just entered. As you can see, it gives it an ID. Here's our name, our email, and as you can see, this password is not the password we entered. But if we go to log in, okay, we only need, for the login, we only need email and password. You can see it lets us log in successfully. right? Even though this doesn't match. And the reason why is because we use a npm package called bcrypt, and we'll get into that, which basically hashes your password, and you know, because you don't want to store plain text passwords in a database. Very, very unsafe. And bcrypt is a great way of achieving that, so you're not storing plain text passwords. It's actually bcrypt. I'm using bcrypt JS just because I'm on Windows, and that usually works better for me. Regular bcrypt sometimes gives me a little bit of an issue. But you know, bcrypt JS is just as good as anything. But anyway, as you can see, so that's what we're going to be doing. So I'm going to shut down my server for the test. I'm actually going to close this because we don't need this right now. Let me close this. Here is our JWT, jwt.io. This is the website for that. Okay. Here, I don't know why I was all the way at the bottom. So see this? This is the JWT. So that one we had in Postman. Let me open that again real quick. So hang on. It's not gonna. Is it gonna show us again? I don't know. Anyway, the token that we had there, that long character series, you can paste into here, and it'll give you all the information here. But I'll show you that later on. So let us do make dir. I'm going to call this auth app. I'm going to cd into auth app, and we're going to do code period to, excuse me, to open it in VS Code. Here we are. Okay, let me close this. Okay, we can close that. So the first thing we need to do is open a terminal. I like to put my terminal on the right hand side because I'm working on a wider screen. If you were working on a more horizontal screen, then I would put it, I'm sorry, a more vertical screen, I would put it on the bottom. Anyway, it doesn't matter, put it wherever you want. So what we need to do is npm init to initialize a project. Package name, auth app is fine, version is fine, description, put in whatever you want. For the entry point, I'm going to put server.js, whatever your main app file is. Test command, don't worry about it. Git repository, not for this, no. Author, you could put your name. License, doesn't matter. Okay, and then type yes. And there we go. And it gives us a package.json file with all that information we just put in. Okay, so let me clear this. We can start at the top. Now, excuse me. So we're going to be using some packages, some Node Package Manager, NPM, in order to achieve this backend situation we got going here. Now we need a few of them. Okay, let's see. So I'm going to do npm I, or install, but I use I. We're going to need Express, of course, which is a JavaScript framework, notoriously used with Node. We're going to use, let's see, Mongoose, because we're going to talk to a database to store it. And we're going to connect to a database. We're going to use something called config, and I'll get into what that is a little later on. We're going to use, of course, bcrypt.js, and also JSON web token. And I think that's it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's all we need. So hit enter. Just give it a few seconds to install. And there we go, pretty quick. And as you can see, we get them over here in our dependencies. We also need one more thing. So npm I, and this is going to be a dev dependency. So -d, we'll save it as a dev dependency so that if you were to deploy this to Heroku or Google Cloud or wherever, it wouldn't include this. It only includes these dependencies that we need over here. But this is for when we're developing, which is nodemon, which basically watches our, nodemon, which basically watches our files, and if there's an update and a save, it automatically restarts the server. Otherwise, we would have to do it manually every time we saved, which is kind of a pain in the butt. Clear? Okay, so that's all we need for that. Now, let me close this. Now I'm going to come over here and create in our main main folder. I'm going to create a new file called server.js, which is our main entry point. Okay. Const express equals require. We're going to bring in express, of course, because we need that. Oops. Next, we're going to create. You know what? Let's bring in everything that we need first. Oh, excuse me. Const mongoose equals require mongoose, and this is for connecting to our MongoDB database. Now I'm using a local MongoDB database on my machine. If you were using a MongoDB Atlas, it would be everything would be exactly the same, except your connection string would be a little bit different, and I'll let you know when we get to that. Let's see. I think that's all. Oh, we need config. So const config equals require config. Need that a little bit later. Basically, that just allows you to hide your connection strings and our JWT secret code in a little, and I'll go over that in a little bit. It's just an easier way to get it without exposing it publicly. Next, we need to create a port. Const port equals process dot env dot port or 5000. Now I'll explain this. So process env is an environment variable. So when you deploy this app, if you were to deploy this app live, the port that your app would run on would not always be 5000. Who knows what it would be? It's random, I believe. So this just allows it to be whatever Heroku or Google Cloud sets it to, or it's going to be 5000, which is what we're using. Let's see. A few other things we got to add. We're going to use app.use, which is, oh, stop it. Sorry, app.use, which is, what? Come on, I hate this. I didn't get this fixed from the last time. I don't know why it does that. App.use. Oh, come on. Sorry, guys, I'm having a bad day. Use. We need express.json rather than body parser. Express has its own body parser now, so you don't have to use that. App.use express.url encoded, and then we're going to set extended to true. Okay, don't need those spaces. So this is just so your app can automatically process JSON. Okay. Now let's see. Okay, let's get our server going. We got to do two more things. One is here, listen on our port that we created up here, this variable, comma, and then we're going to create a callback. And we're going to say console.log. Sorry, I thought I silenced that. Console.log. I'm going to say whatever. I'm going to open backticks, which is those little notch marks to the left of your number 1 on your keyboard. Server running on port, and then $ in curly brackets, the port name. This is a variable. This is just so we don't have to concatenate. All right, so let's save that. And one more thing we got to do is come into our package.json. This is just makes things a little easier. You don't have to do this, but it just makes things easier. We're going to create two scripts. One is called, we'll call this run, and we're going to say node server.js, and then comma, and then we're going to come down and we're going to say dev nodemon server.js. Okay, and what this allows us to do, let me save that, save all, close that. We're going to come over here and we're going to say npm run dev, and it's going to run our server for us. Oh, yeah, forgot to do one thing. Const app equals express. We're going to just call the express function and store it as app. And that applies to this and other things that we're going to use. All right, good. Don't worry about this for now. So our server is running on port 5000, so we're all good there. Let's now do our connection to Mongoose. So we're going to connect to MongoDB database. Let's create a variable called const database equals, okay, equals config.get. Now this, give me a second, I'll explain this. We're going to call this Mongo URI. Okay. Now let's actually create that. Okay, so we're going to come over here in our main folder, our auth app folder, and we're going to create a folder called config. Okay, and then inside of that, we're going to call create a file called default.json. It's got to be called default.json, otherwise it won't work. Okay, and don't worry about this for now. We're going to fix it. So we're going to open some curly braces for JSON, and we're going to say Mongo URI colon, and then a string. And actually, at this point, I'm going to add this JWT secret, because we're going to need that later. Right now, we don't need it. Actually, you know what? I think it might give us an error, so let's just leave it out for now. Let's see. I need to get my connection. Actually, you know what? I'm going to add it now. So this is my connection string, because again, I'm on a local host. If you weren't, this is where your connection string from MongoDB Atlas would go. This is a JWT secret. This can be anything you want. I'm choosing a series of random characters. And it should be like that, secure. Don't put like test 1, 2, 3 or anything like that. It should be secure. Okay. All right, good. So back to our Mongoose connection. So we're going to get our Mongoose variable dot connect. Mongoose.connect function, or method, I should say. We're going to pass in our database function. Now this is sometimes confusing, but I'm just going to go ahead and paste it in here. These are just some things from Mongoose that they suggest you put in, or really that they demand that you put in, otherwise, because they're been deprecated. All right, so .connect is a promise, so we're going to, or it returns a promise, I mean. So we're going to do .then, takes in a function, and we'll just say, just like the .listen, we're going to say console.log connected to database. Okay, and then just in case there's an error, we're going to do a .catch, and we're going to pass in an error, whatever the error is, if there is one. And for now, we'll just console.log. Oops, console.log that error, just in case. Okay, let's see what we get. Save that and test it. And now we get, don't worry about this. This is new. I'm still working on that. But anyway, connected to database and server running. So we're good. Okay, so we have everything, well, not everything, but we have things set up. Let's, real quick, so in order to save our users to our database. When somebody registers as a user, we're going to save that to a database, to our database here. Now for that, we need a model. So I'm going to come in our main folder, create another folder called model. Okay. And inside of that, we're going to create a new file called users.js. Okay. Here we go. Good. Now we need to bring in const mongoose. This is a mongoose schema, basically. If you've ever worked with PHP and MySQL, require, of course, mongoose. I had a rough day today, guys, so if I make mistakes, please forgive me. Okay, so now schema, am I spelling it right? Equals mongoose dot schema. Okay, right, good. Here's our actual schema. And we're going to say const user schema is equal to a new schema. So that's a class. So we're just creating a new instance of it. And we're going to say name is equal to an object. The type, it will be a string, capital string. We'll say required is set to true. And I think the rest of these are similar. So we're just going to copy. And we're going to call this one, Jesus, why does it do that? We're going to call this one email, comma, paste it again. Sorry. We're going to call this one password, required, yeah, sure. And then we'll add in a date created. You don't have to do this, but it's probably good practice just in case. So it's a type of date, oops, date, required, true. You don't have to make it required, but I just do. Default date dot now. Okay, and what that does is we're not going to set a date in our actual routes that we're going to create soon. So it's always going to default to whatever the current timestamp is. Okay, pretty simple. And that's it. Let's just export it. Module.export equals users, because that's what it is, equals mongoose dot model. This is all in the documentation of mongoose. And we're going to call this users, come out of there, comma, and then we're going to pass in our user schema. Okay. All right, so that wasn't too bad. That kind of gets that out of the way. All right. Let me close this default JSON, and we can close this. I'm done with it. And I believe we're done with our server. Oh, no, we're not done with our server, but I'll close it for now. Now, so what we need to do next, this is our big project. We need to create our routes, okay, which is what Postman hits, that localhost 5000 /API/users/register/login/whatever. So what I like to do is I create a folder called routes. Then inside that, I create another folder called API, because you can have different routes, but in this case, it's an API. Then I'm going to create a folder, call it usersagain.js. Doesn't matter because it's in a different folder. Okay. So the first thing we need to do is bring in everything that we need. So let's do that. Const express, of course, because we're going to be creating routes, equals require express. Let's see, we need const bcrypt equals require. This is bcrypt.js, don't forget. We're going to need const config equals require config. We're going to need JWT const JWT equals, whoops, equals, Jesus, equals require JSON web token. We're not going to use that right away, but eventually we will need it. Now, let's see. We also need to bring in, right now, let's bring in our user model that we created over here. Okay, we're going to const users. Actually, let's just call that user equals require dot slash, as you can see, and then we're going to go into the model and slash users so we can bring in our model so we can reference that. Okay, this is how our routes talk to the actual database itself through our model. That's how it knows the structure of it. Okay, so let's see. What should we do first? Let's get, you know what? It's a little bit easier. So let's start. Oh, I'm sorry. First, we need to const router. We need to create this equals express dot router method so that we can create routes in here. Sorry, I forgot that. So let's create. I'm just going to copy and paste this. This is just a little description I like to put just to so there's no confusion. Now this is going to be a private route because we don't want any stranger to just get all of our users. It's going to be a private route, but for now it's going to be public. For now, we're going to change it. So we're going to do router.get because it's a get request, and we're going to make it the basic API route. Okay, you'll see what I'm talking about later. So let's give it a request and response. Okay, and then we're going to put it in a try catch thing. Let's pass an event if there is one, or an error rather. Okay, so inside of our try for our get all route, we're going to do const users, not capital users, equals users dot find. This is going to find all of them. Okay, let's put a little check here. So if not users, so if there is no users, we're just going to throw an error, and we'll say no users exist. I don't know, whatever. So if there's no users, then it throws an error. If there is users, we're going to res.json, and we're going to pass in our users. Okay. In our catch statement, we're going to give it a res.status, or response of a status of 400, which is an error on the server side. I'm sorry, on the front end side. And then we're going to give JSON, a JSON response with a message of e.message, which is going to give us an error message and tell us what's wrong. All right, let's try that. What the heck? See if there's any mistakes. Hopefully not. Nope, we're good. I'm going to open Postman again. Now remember, this route is not protected, so anybody can access it from any computer as long as they have an internet connection. So it's going to be a GET request, and it's just going to be our local host, which is because we're hosting it local. Get out of here. The port 5000, then API. Oh, geez, I forgot. Okay, so one more thing we need to do in order for this to work. Sorry about this, guys. So module dot exports. We have to export this equals router. So we're exporting everything. So we're going to create more of these, and this just module.export equals router exports any route that you can create, it'll export that. So you can create 100 of them, doesn't matter. Then in our main server.js, we have to bring this in. So I'm going to say app.get use. Okay, here's our actual API slash API slash, whoops, oh, why is this capital? Sorry, API slash users. Why is this capital? Sorry guys, I'm sorry. Having a bad day. Slash users. So that's our, excuse me, that's our API route, comma, and we're going to get it from here. Require, okay, we're going to go dot slash into routes slash into API slash users, and that's where we're going to get this from. Okay. Now, if you had, say, a posts route, say you were going to that JSON placeholder, and you were getting something, it would go right in here too, and then in the API folder you would create another file called posts.js, and then you would create your routes here, bring it in here just like this. I'll show you. And you would say API slash posts, and then it would be slash posts. But we're not doing that. So, but that's how it would work. In this case, we're just adding our user authentication to an already existing API, right? Okay, good. So let's try this. Oh, okay. Sorry. This is supposed to be users. Sorry about that. See, it's user dot. Now this is going to be a post request because we're going to post a form to our API with their login information, email, and password. So let's create that. And we're going to say slash login just to differentiate it. So the endpoint that you're going to hit is API slash users slash login. Okay. I'm going to give it the old request and response here, and then that's it. Well, that's not it, but you get it. Now, so what we're going to do, just make things a little easier, we're going to destructure const, and we're going to pull out the email and the password from, oops, not from our request.body. So whatever is sent to this route in the body, we're going to pull out the email and password, which of course we know is what it's going to be. So let's do a little validation. So if there's no email, or, which is this double straight line thing next to above your enter button, shift, and there's no password, then we're going to return a res.status of 400 because it's a user error. I'm going to give it a JSON, open up an object, and we're going to give a message. And these are things you can use on the front end to tie into it. So when there is an error, you can display this message that's set in the backend. Please enter all fields. I think it's fields, yeah. Please enter all fields. Okay, so if there's no email or password, you can use that to do that. So if there is an email and password, we're going to do a try catch block again. I'm going to do catch, oops. I'm going to do, so in our try, so first thing we need to do is we need to search our database and find the user based on that email. Const user equals user dot find find one by our email. I'm going to pass that in. Okay. And actually, let's go ahead and make this a sync, and then we're going to await this. So it doesn't move on until it finds someone in email, so you don't want it to move on until then, until it finds that. So if not a user, and that's, whoops, told you I'm having a bad day, guys. So if there's no, if there's no user by that email, we're going to throw the error again, and we're going to say that user does not exist. Okay, but if they are, we're going to move on. Const. Now this is where our bcrypt comes into play. Okay, now I started with the login. I should have started with the register, but it'll all make sense. So just keep watching. So we're going to say is match. So is the password a match? I'm going to say equal await again. Bcrypt dot compare. Whoops, compare. Because like I showed you in the beginning, bcrypt hashes the password, right? So it hides your plain text password in a hashed code. So that code needs to be deciphered and then translated, which bcrypt does for us very nicely. So the password, which is this up here, the one that's coming in with our user.password, which is now this. So you got to remember, it finds the user by their email, stores it in this variable, checks if that user exists. Now we have this variable, and then we're going to compare the password that is sent to us by the user compared to what's in the database. Hopefully that makes sense. So a little more validation. So if not is matched, so if there is no match, okay, so if if they type in the wrong password or whatever, I'm going to throw an error. I'm sure you could have guessed that by now. So error, and we'll say password, whoops, password does not match. Okay, means they typed it in wrong and they got to do it again. Okay. Now, here is our JWT token. So we assign a new token every time the person logs in, and then when they log out, the token is destroyed, and vice versa. Okay, so we have to create that now. Const token equals JWT, whoops, JWT, which is this. So we're going to use JWT dot sign. Okay, now this is a little confusing, but just stay with me. So we want to assign the ID of the token to the user dot, I think it's underscore ID, it should be. Okay, so that's how we're going to recognize it. Then we're going to pass in our JWT secret, which is here, which is in the default, which is this. It's just a unique identifier. Okay, like I said, that could be anything. Where was I? All right, so our JWT secret, and if you want, this is optional, you don't have to do it, but just to show you, expires in, we'll say 3600 milliseconds, which is 1 hour. So you could set it to 24 hours, you could set it to a week, you could set it to, a minute, whatever, right? Got to be in milliseconds though, okay? Good, so let's do a little validation again. So if not token, so if there's no token that's assigned, we're going to throw error, and we're going to say couldn't auth. I don't know what. Whoops, what that happened. Couldn't authenticate, or something like that. Excuse me. You scroll down here so you can see better. Actually, let me see if I can zoom in. Maybe that's a little better for you guys. I hope so. Okay. Hopefully it's a little better. Okay, so now that we've gotten all that out of the way, so now we're ready to move ahead and log in. So res.status. So if all those things come into play and are successful, we're going to give them a status of 200.json, and we're going to open up a JSON object. We're going to pass in our token along with it. Okay. Then we're going to give back our user. which is the ID, which is user dot, I think it's underscore ID, name, which is user dot name, which the user is still coming from here because we found it in our database. And then we'll give them the email, which is user dot email. Okay. Let's see, and then that's it. Okay, and then we'll do our catch statement just in case. Res dot status 400 dot JSON, and we'll send them another message. Whoops, of e dot message again, just so we can see. Okay, good. So let's go to users/login. Now we don't have any users, so this might not work. But in here, in our role, we open this, we give email, it doesn't matter, test@t.com. Then we give our password, whoops, colon outside, password test 123. Okay, let's see what we get. That's an error because that I typed that right. Slash login, yeah. Okay, so we know the login works. Good. Now let's do register. So I'm going to copy this. So these are both public because everybody should be able to log in and everybody should be able to register. So this is post slash register user registration. Okay, access public. Actually, this should be post also. I keep forgetting that. User login public. Good. Let me push this down just a touch. And we're going to do router.post, of course, again. And we're going to do slash register. Okay, so it's a different route just to avoid confusion. Request response as per usual. Open that up. Okay, good. Now we're ready to do that. Okay, so there's a lot of similarities. Let's make this an async while we're at it. Okay. Oops. Okay, so now in order to register a user, we need to store all three: the name or username, email, and password. Okay, so let's pull those out by destructuring. Const name, email, password from request dot body. Okay, so we don't have to worry about request dot body dot name, request dot blah blah blah. You get it. It's just a little easier. So if there's no name or no email or it's not password or no password, password, then we want to return res.status of 400 because a user error. They need to give us all three .json, and this is totally customizable. You can make anything and everything you want required. Message of, again, please enter all fields. Cool. Good. So if they've done that and that's successful, we're going to open another try catch dealio. Catch with an error, possible error. And inside of our try catch, here's where we do all our, or most of our logic. Const user, because this is inside the scope of this router.post, so we can use the same variable again, even though it's const. Equals await. Now user dot find one by email. So we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to check and see if that user already exists, because you don't want two users with the same email. So if there is a user by that name, I'm going to throw an error. User already exists. Please use another one, whatever, another name, or actually it should be email. Okay. If there isn't if there isn't already a username with that, now we have to work on converting our password, our plain text password, into a hashed password. Now, the way the bcrypt works is you generate a salt, which is basically a series of random characters, as you've seen in the beginning when I was testing it. It's a series of random characters. Excuse me, guys. I'm sorry. Series of random characters, and then we're going to hash our password into that. Okay. So const, we're going to create something called a salt. And if you've ever worked with WordPress, this might look familiar because you need salt for that. Excuse me, which is just a series of random characters. Bcrypt, right? .gen salt, camel case. Okay. And the standard or the default is 10. 10 characters long. You can go more than that, but if you do, like I've put it up to 16 times sometimes, and it takes about an hour and a half for it to generate that many characters. It's just the way it works. I don't know, what the exact problem is, but so 10 is the way to go. Don't worry, 10 is plenty safe for any application basically. So if no salt is generated, again, you could probably guess we're going to throw an error. Oops, error. Uh, there was an issue with storing your password. Okay, something like that. Good. Now that we have the salt generated, we need to take their plain text password that they put into our request.body and then hash it into that salt, the generated character, or the series of generated characters. So const hash equals await, because you want to await all these things. You want this to finish before this starts, and so on and so on. Okay, so await bcrypt, yeah. For some reason it's hard to spell. .hash, okay, and we're going to pass in our plain text password that the user passes into us through the form, through the request.body, okay, and then we're going to pass it in our salt that we created right here, okay. So again, we're going to check. If not hash, if it wasn't hashed, then we're going to throw an error. We'll say, I don't know, error with hashing password security. Something like that. That sounds good, right? Okay, so now that we have all that business out of the way, there's still more to go, but don't worry, we're getting in there. So now we want to create our new user. Const new user equals a new user from our thing up here, from our model. So we're going to create a new user, okay? And we're going to open up an object, and we're going to pass in the name, email, and our password is going to be the hash, this hash up here after it's been hashed properly. I'm getting hungry for hash browns. Anyone else? Okay, so now we got to save our new user. Const saved user equals await new user dot save. Okay, that's it. That's the command. Okay, good. We're going to say if not saved user. So if for whatever reason it wasn't saved, we're going to throw error. And by the way, there's better ways to do errors, but this is just to give you an example and get you started. Okay, your user profile was not saved, or something like that, right? So that's the actual act of saving the new user to the database, okay? Now, what we need to do is, so once the new user is saved, we need to now generate a token and pass that token back to the front end so that when they are in to the application, the local storage or whatever your front end application is can have that token with the user login information and use it throughout the site, okay, so that they can access certain forbidden routes, okay. Um, so let's create that token again. Actually, it's going to be the same as this, so let's just grab this, okay. Let's grab this. I think that's going to, let me see. Yeah, JWT sign by the ID or JWT secret expires in 3600 milliseconds. Yeah, okay, we're good. All right, so now, after that's all done, we're going to give it a res.status of 200, meaning everything went okay, .json, and we're going to pass in our token to the front end, whatever that might be. User, we're going to pass in the user that was just created. It's going to be the ID, ID, which will be saved user.id. I think it's, oh, it's underscore, sorry. Underscore. We're going to pass in name, which is saved user. This is the user that was just created. Dot name, comma, email, which is here. Again, saved user dot email, comma, and just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to pass in the password, okay, which is saved, just so we can see that it used the actual hash password, okay. I think that's it. Good. And then let's res.status. I'm sure you could guess this. 400 .json. Open up an object or message. Trusty old message. e.message. All right, and I think that should be it, guys. Hopefully we don't get any errors. Let's see. No errors. Now, here it's a post request to register. I'm going to use this same example, except we're going to say name because we got to give a name. It's required, remember. We'll say Fred Johnson, comma. Let's see if this works. Cannot read property of oh, sorry about that, guys. It is, where are we? Listen, that's really it, guys. There's a lot more you can do with this, and you can use pretty much any front end you want. Vanilla JavaScript, React, Vue, Angular, I'm pretty sure Next.js, all that. But this is setting up the back end to protect your routes. Oh, yeah, so one more thing I forgot. Let's create a folder called middleware. Okay, and in that I'm going to create a new file called .js. Okay, and then I'm going to paste in the code because we're running late, and I'm just going to explain it. So here we require JSON web token, we require config, we require our JWT secret again. We're going to export this, so it's a function. Okay, so this is how we get our token and tell it what to do. Okay, so check for the token. So first we create it and we put it in the header, right? And I'm going to show you how this works as well. So we check if there is a token. If not, we say it's denied. Then we decode it, verify that the token is actually real from the request.user, and then we hit next to move on to the next thing. Okay, and then all you do is just bring in this middleware. So we're going to say const auth equals require. What am I doing? Dot dot slash. Whoops. Sorry. Quotes. Dot slash. Dot slash into our middleware slash auth. Okay. Colon, and then we come down to, or go to any protected routes you want. Type in auth, comma, and there we go. Okay, now let's take this JWT token, since it doesn't expire for 3600 milliseconds. Now we can go here, delete this to our regular route, go to our headers, and we're going to add in a key of our token in uh, uh, our actual token. Let's see, no token authorized denied. Let's see. Auth.js, right. Oh, so we gotta, let's log in. Let's log in, post, body, let's delete that, send. Here's our token. I'm just gonna copy this. I'm gonna go make this a GET request again, go to our base route, go in our headers, replace this token with the new one. And let's see, no token authorized denied. Hmm. Okay guys, so that's how you authenticate routes. I hope this video has been helpful. If it has, please leave a like and don't forget to subscribe. Much appreciated guys. Take care of yourselves and each other. Bye.